Hi, my name is Drew Pomeroy, and welcome to this beginner-friendly series on learning RStudio and Shiny Apps IO for athlete monitoring. In this series, we'll be exploring how to create a dynamic and user-friendly web application to monitor athletic performance, specifically focusing on baseball players. All right, so we're going to add our range of motion data in. I want it to come up under the gauge scores. I kind of want it to be, kind of the summary of the percentile of where these athletes fit in the categories for those gauge charts, then go into range of motion, then go into longitudinal information. So let's go ahead and do that. First, what we're going to need to do is add DT in here. So we'll go ahead, library DT. This is actually going to create a little, I think it's data table. But anyway, it's just so that we can add tables into our UI. So now I'm going to go down. We're going to find where our gauges are. So gauge scores, I want it to be directly underneath this. So let's go ahead and if we do a break and then we go into that. So it's going to be after the break. No, because this actually ends that fluid row. So we're looking, this parenthesis ends the fluid row. So we're actually going to go the next line down. So this is going to be our range of motion data table. All right, so what we're going to do, let me add another space. We're going to create another fluid row. And let's just get on a new line. The column, remember we got to do this for all of them. The width, we want this, the max width that you can have is 12. So I want it to be all the way. Comma, and we're going to have a table output. And that is going to be our range of motion. Oops. Cannot spell today. Metrics table. So that should be good for the UI. That ends our fluid row. And we expect a comma after the expression. That moves on to the longitudinal section. So we've added our range of motion data table in. Now we can go down and place this in our server code. So let me just find my section. All right, so range of motion data table, I want to be under, let's go down, server code. It's gonna be before the longitudinal metric area. So find max number is our last piece of that. Let's go to this line, add a couple of lines, and we're gonna call this, let's just put some in here, range of motion, just so we have a section, and we want to render the range of motion data table. So same thing that we've done, we need an output. So we're going to output the range of motion data table that we've already created. Okay. And now for this, we need to type in DT 2 colons and render data table. Then we need to do our squiggly again. So the requirements in here, we're going to pull from player data all events. And we put that in there because that was a function. Awesome. DT, render that data table. Okay, great. Now, what we're gonna need to do is filter the range of motion data for the selected player across all events, because I want to see all of them. We're not just populating this one like we are the others. Well, yes, we are, but we're just doing it in a table. So we need all events. So I'm going to call this range of motion data. And we're going to be pulling in from player data all events. All right, pipe this into, and the command we want is select. It's going to be event ID, that's the column, and starts with range of motion. Starts, I want the columns that start with range of motion. I don't know if that's correct, to be honest. So next we need to render as a data table. So DT, so we'll be using, we're going to be using that data table in here. So we want range of motion data. The options we want in there, we want to list, and the page length is going to equal 10. And we're going to do an auto width in here. Auto width, all we need to do is set this equal to true. So what that's saying is, hey, the page length is going to be 10, and then we're going to auto width based on the size. You've seen things adjust based off of the size of everything. So that's going to end our little squiggly there. The next thing we need to do is output the range of motion metrics table. So, oh, we forgot this piece. Oh my gosh. All right, output the range of motion metrics table. There's a couple spaces. So, what is our output? Output, range of motion metrics table, ROM metrics table. We're going to render that table. Again, get your squiggly. Required player data all events. Okay. Player data all events. It's going to be in there. Boom, boom. Another line. We are going to be extracting the data and pivot it to have metrics as rows and events as columns. So I want my metrics to come up on the left side, and I want the events to show up on the top of the table. I think it defaults, if you just create this, it defaults to the other way. So you have event 1, event 2, event 3, event 4, and then all of them, but I want it to be going across, right? Kind of like our longitudinal graphs, how they were all going from left to right. I want to do the same thing. So we're just going to say this is the data, and we're going to go from player data all events. Actually pause real quick. All right, so we're going data, player data, all events. We want to pipe that into a select. So select is going to be, right, we need the event ID. And then we need all of our metrics with the left and the right side. And this is going to be the names. Yeah. So we're going to output the range of motion metrics table, and I want the names, I want to choose the names. So that's what this select is going to do. I'm going to copy the rest of these in here, just because I have them written out. So this is all of them. You can go ahead and pause this to be able to type all of these out. But again, we're going to be piping this in again. So we're going to pipe this into a pivot. So that's all that I want to show up on my table. And now, again, we're going to pivot longer. We did that earlier. So the columns are going to equal, we're going to put this dash in front, and then event ID. We're going to say these names 2. The names 2 is going to be the metric. Okay. And then the values to is going to be the value that we are pulling. Okay, let's pipe that again. And we want to arrange them by the metric. Nice. And I think that's all good. Actually, don't think we need that. Let's get rid of it. And we're going to add a return transform data, return data, and then close that off. So if we did everything right, this should give us a table now. Let's go ahead, run the UI, run the server, and now we've got event ID, metric, and value, and I think, okay. So we need to do a little arranging. Let's figure out why that happened. I completely missed a little line of code in here, so the reason it popped up that way, yes, we're getting the information we want, but not how we want to view it. So the value piping in, what I forgot after this pipe is to pivot wider. Okay, so the names are going to be from the event ID, and the values from are going to equal the value, and then pipe again, and then arrange by metric. So this pivot wider is saying that we want to view these with the event ID going across the top, and the values we're pulling that go under the event ID column is going to be the value of the metric that is selected. So let's go ahead and run this. I think we'll just need, yep, there we go. All right. Perfect. So now we've moved event 1 and 2, and we've made those the columns. So that's what that wider does. But yeah, now we can see. Let's make this a bit bigger so it's easier to see. Okay. Sammy Sosa, boom. We've got everything updating. And then even when I change these, that table is going to stay the same. So awesome. We've got all of our range of motion in there. Next, let's just make this look a little bit nicer. Right now that we've got really the bulk of our information in here, we can go ahead and just clean it up a little, right? We want to put some definitive kind of visual lines throughout this. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay updated on the next video, and I'll see you in the next one.